Thank you. The Municipality of Central Elgin acknowledges that it is located on the land of the McKee Treaty that was signed by the Wyandot and Anishinaabe nations, including ancestors of Chippewas of Thames First Nation. It is also the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Attawandaronk, and Mississauga Nation. These First Nations continue to provide ongoing stewardship of the land and waters in the Municipality of Central Elgin. Council, any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. If I could get a mover and a seconder for the adoption of the minutes for the previous meeting, please. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Connors, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councillor Connors, that the minutes for the regular meeting of Council dated Monday, March 17th, 2025, and special meeting of Council dated Monday, March 24th, 2025, be adopted.
Any questions, comments on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Delegations. We have with us this evening 3 delegations. First is Roy Johnson, who is an engineer and senior project manager with Arcadis, who is going to talk about the Westport Stanley Storm Master Plan. Mr. Johnson, if you could come forward to the podium, please. Oh, Mr. Johnson is apparently joining us online. My apologies. Mr. Johnson, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. If you'd proceed, sir.
I'm not sure how, is there the PowerPoint presentation being displayed, or do I need to do something for that?
It's being displayed. I'm just going to confer with Ms. Leach and Ms. Redmond for a moment to make sure. You can, it's on the screen. You can proceed, Mr. Johnson.
Okay, I'm sorry. I can't see it, but I'll go from. So thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Roy Johnson. I'm with Arcadis Canada, and we were retained by Central Elgin to provide for a stormwater management master plan for the community of West Port Stanley. Note that there may be additional works in the future for East Port Stanley, but it's not included as part of this study. The primary concern of the master plan was to identify current deficiencies and guide the implementation of stormwater drainage improvements now and into the future. Basically, we identified areas of concern, system structural improvements, operational improvements, and established level of service and performance metrics. We work closely with Central Elgin to identify stormwater issues, which would be slide 5, figure 1-4, identifying various areas of drainage issues and flooding within the community. We'd also produced a stormwater model to represent the system as it exists today, as well as to use that existing system to evaluate potential flooding areas that may not have been experienced directly, and to look at the mechanisms for possible solutions to alleviate that flooding. In general, we looked at either the establishment of storm sewers in areas where they did not exist, the upsizing of storm sewers in areas where they may have been insufficiently sized, the addition of catch basins to areas that may not have sufficient catch basin capacity to capture the flows. And we also looked at what are called inlet control devices, which are basically restrictions placed on a catch basin to push flows further down the road so that they could be picked up in existing catch basins downstream. I'm on slide 10. If we want to look at individual areas of concern, Sydenham and Smith Street experienced some surface flooding at the intersection, and we determined that upsizing the pipe would help to maintain the level of service and reduce spilling to the future. So we've recommended an upsized pipe 600, and additional catch basins without other improvements are not recommended. For the Carlo Road southern area, some additional catch basins will help pick up those flows. Upsizing the sewers will improve the system performance, and an additional catch basin is recommended for the intersection at George Street and Carlo Road. Slide 12, which is Bessie Street and Maud Street, which currently do not have storm sewers. Installing a proposed storm sewer ranging from 375 to 600 mil is recommended to enhance the performance throughout the area. And it's recommended to revise the grading and provide a positive outlet for overland flow to avoid ponding at low points, which is essentially so that we don't have low points without catch basins where water builds up. We want that to spill onto the road and get taken off the surface. Surface flooding will be reduced, obviously. Next slide is 13, which is William Street from Buccaneer to Erie, which is picking up a relatively large area, including Edith Cavell, 1st Street, 4th Street, 2nd Street, flows from the large main parking lot, Lotus Street, and so on, and would also be picking up additional flows from proposed sewers on Bessie and Maud. So we're recommending some pipe upsizing to handle some of those additional flows. I believe I missed one. If we go back to slide 9, sorry about that. The main beach parking lot basically only has some depression storage and currently doesn't have an on-site sewer system. So amongst other improvements on Edith Cavell, we're recommending the addition of a sewer in the main parking lot and a catch basin to pick up flows and provide a pipe system to the south and east to William Street. If we continue to slide 15, as part of the works for the master plan, which were detailed in technical memo 3 and are also going to be included in the ultimate master plan, we've provided a cost estimate for the works associated with the upsizing of sewers, the addition of catch basins, and the additions of ICDs. I'm not going to go through line by line, but it can be seen on the following slides, 16 through 18, which essentially divide up into various areas: the main beach parking lot costs, Sydenham and Smith costs, and associated costs. So again, this is for only the West Port Stanley. So the prices in terms of actual construction are roughly $5 million, and engineering costs roughly $1 million. So the next steps involved, slide 19, is that the formal master plan document will be finalized. We'll incorporate comments and information gathered from the previous Public Information Center. It'll document the EA process and be published on the municipal project website. Notice of study of completion will be published, alerting the public that the 30-day public review period has begun. If there are no outstanding issues or Part 2 orders, we'll essentially finalize that document, and it will become the guiding document for West Port Stanley. I hope that wasn't too long. If there's any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I'm going to open it up to questions from council. Deputy Mayor, please.
Through you, Mayor. So if the water in this whole plan, it still dumps into the harbor, what happens if the water level in the harbor is high? Are we still going to see flooding from this new plan?
It's possible. As the basis for our model and assessment, we've assumed and taken a historical reference point of the water level in the harbor that's reasonably high, but is not the highest it's ever been. There's going to be periods where there may be a high water level in the harbor and you get a 1 in 100 year storm that could be problematic, but overall on the average conditions, it would alleviate the flooding.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Mr. Johnson, we have a group, like a lot of people in the gallery tonight. I don't know if all of them have seen the report. Would it be fair for me to ask to help? I mean, you've talked about the $5 million and $1 million in engineering. Would it be fair for me to ask you or Mr. Brooks or someone to take us through a little bit about the timeline? It sounds like, I know it's not all happening at once, but is that something I could ask, that there be just a little bit of an explanation through you, the Coles notes, if you will, of what it looks like and timing, et cetera, please?
I think I'd
You wanna
defer
do
that
Jeff?
to Jeff. Yeah.
Okay. Is that okay, Mr. Brooks?
Absolutely. So from here, as Mr. Johnson had mentioned, the report will be posted for a 30-day period. Once that 30-day period expires, and there are no concerns, we can file this report and move on to the detailed design of this project. So in the 2025 budget, staff had put forth a capital project for $750,000 to complete engineering of this project for storm sewer upgrades. That project, we anticipate, we have a fairly aggressive timeline on that, and we're hoping to complete the engineering work in the fall of 2025. And staff anticipate right now that it would come forth to council and propose that this construction project be broken into 2 phases, with phase 1 starting as early as late 2025, depending on council approval of the 2026 budget. As well, so that phase 1 would be through 2026 and potentially into the first part of 2027. And phase 2 would be 2027, completing early 2028.
Thank you. And we had the announcement, I guess, a couple of years ago. Some of this, Mr. Brooks, falls under the subsidy program that the government announced. So I guess, well, as we learn more about the timelines, we learn more about how much we access of that, et cetera. Is that a fair comment?
That's correct. So as Mr. Johnson had mentioned, this project is estimated to cost $6.3 million. 40% of those costs would be covered by the federal government through the Disaster Mitigation and Adaptation Fund. And that total comes to $2.58 million for this part of the project. The municipality's portion of the project over the next 3 to 4 years would be $3.72 million.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson, for your presentation. Very informative. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Delegation number 2. Colleen Burns from Forever Wildlife Rehabilitation is going to be speaking regarding mass feeding of wildlife and its community impacts. I would like to invite Ms. Burns to come forward, a friend of Port Stanley Wildlife, as we know, and I see also former councillor from Ward 5, who's joining us as well. Fiona, welcome. Remember to use your microphone, or press the button, please.
Is that good? Good. Thank you. I've got a lot to cover, so I'll get going. Our first item is the growing concern that's surrounding overfeeding or mass feeding of wildlife. This year, the first time I've ever seen a multitude of posts on Facebook and people calling me, expressing their frustration about their neighbors feeding wildlife. Some called asking for suggestions and how they can stop their neighbors, and others are asking how they could get rid of these animals. So by their tone, I could hear in their voices that they were at their wits' end. And it was about 6 or 7 people. None of them had feeders, all had done their research, and they agreed that wildlife should be left alone. They'd all talked to their neighbors, because I said, you know, the first thing you need to do is talk to your neighbors. They said they had, and they either met with a deaf ear or really colorful language. I provided them with some humane alternatives to trapping, but it worried me that desperate times would lead to desperate measures, and they would go for traps, glue traps, all sorts of things, or God forbid, even poison. So some of the things that I heard about, one was deer are still coming up on a deck looking for food long after the renters have left, and they were the ones that were feeding them. And these deer are literally walking all over these people's decks. It's an adjoining unit. Another one was gulls that are nesting and defecating all over the flat roofs of these homes and the nearby cars, and the homeowners are watching all the visitors feeding these gulls. One complaint I had was food being poured over a balcony, and this was in a multifamily complex, and it was being poured onto the ground where everybody had to walk. And again, the person was getting very colorful language and they asked them to stop. Also, on a very small street, I counted between 50 and 70 geese being fed from neighboring lawns. The geese weren't afraid of people or cars. And the residents' concern was not just the droppings, but also the possibility these nesting parents were going to become aggressive, which they can, toward them and their kids. I did include in the handout an article that I found, and interesting how these authors said that further access that these animals have to stable resources help explain why wildlife populations around the world, especially birds, are abandoning migration to the point they're contributing to property damage in parks, aggressive encounters, and vehicle collisions as well. Now, I understand most people have good intentions, and I get that, but some people actually believe that these animals are going to starve. And that's one of my main concerns, because species that have been raised and live in these specific areas have evolved to survive in those areas, and they don't need our help. All the species are being threatened, not from lack of food, but from urban and agricultural encroachment, and also the increase of pesticides and rodenticides. So here's some facts. All animals are looking for 2-3 things: food, shelter, and a place to have their babies. If these needs aren't met, they're going to move on. But if an animal has a consistent food source, they're going to stop looking, and they're going to have their babies there. And so are their babies. Their babies are going to stay as well. A deer's digestive system shuts down in the winter. They're going to eat bark and acorns and twigs and just dormant buds. So a continuous diet of apples and sweet corn, and these are the troughs that I'm seeing. It's not only detrimental, it can be life-threatening to these deer. Young water birds, if they're just fed corn and bread, they can develop permanent bone deformities and they become flightless. They can't even fly. Also, people who like to hand feed, wildlife become pushy, demanding, and they can even escalate to aggression, and I've seen that. This never ends well for the animal. And while we're sleeping at night, raccoons, skunks, opossums, mice, and even rats come out, and they're eating the birdseed underneath the feeders. And I did have one complaint of a family that had rats all summer they had to deal with. They're also urinating and defecating all over the food as well. And hunger drives these animals to all come to the same spot, and that causes conflict. And it also creates a recipe for disease and parasites. Cases of the H5N1 virus, the avian influenza virus, it was on the rise in January and February, mostly in hawks and owls. I did have a turkey vulture here in Port that did test positive for avian influenza. It remains a low risk to us, but this virus has the ability to mutate, and it's literally spread from birds to wildlife, to farm animals, and also cats and dogs are very susceptible. Last year, over and above the orphans and wildlife I could help, We had to make 110 trips to pick up just sick raccoons. That didn't count the over 55 skunks and all the other animals. 78 were in Central Elgin, and out of that 78, 68 of them came from Port Stanley. Only 9 of them got to go back home. All the others were euthanized. I provided Central Elgin with a detailed report of the animals that I've had in the last 3 years. I've given them an update on the highly pathogenic avian influenza, and I also gave them reputable articles that we as rehabilitators see as really helpful to homeowners. But I haven't heard or seen whether this information has been deemed useful or not. People who feed all species of wildlife year-round and in large quantities, they seem to be creating the most unrest amongst the residents. And to hear about the lack of respect that people are getting, because colorful language, I heard what the colorful language was. So that's very upsetting. So we really hope that council agrees that this is a cause for concern on a homeowner's perspective, and along with the potential health and the safety concerns for residents, their pets, and our local wildlife. My second item, I would like council to really reconsider prohibiting the sale and use of private and commercial fireworks for the month of May. Happening right now, above our heads, migrating birds are traveling through one of the 4 recognized North American bird migratory flyways, and Port Stanley sits in 2 of those, the Mississippi and the Atlantic. Around the northern shores of the Great Lakes, these 2 flyways overlap, and that's why we have so many birds. People are seeing loons and snow geese and tundra swans. They're stopping here to rest on their way up north. Last May, we had a fairly successful campaign to increase the awareness of the negative effects of fireworks and wild mothers and their newborns. We sold about 145 lawn signs, mostly to locals, but some people did take them back to their own communities. We also had a local Airbnb with 10 rentals that participated. But during that campaign, the number of people that came to me telling me how hard it was to watch their pets, mostly their dogs, suffer and suffer weekend after weekend with these fireworks, and they had no way of consoling them. But what I wasn't prepared for, the number of people that confided in me on how bad the fireworks affected them personally. They were terrified. Those were really very sad stories. On the Friday of the Victoria weekend, I did rescue a 3-day-old fawn that was in harm's way, but I luckily was able to reunite her with her mother that night. And despite the signs, and I wasn't surprised, there were fireworks on the harbor and a few ones on the beaches. Now, we all know that birds and mammals, including us, we have this evolutionary built-in primal response to a perceived threat. It's called a startle response, especially to loud noises and explosions. So if we woke up in the middle of the night to bright lights and explosions, without even thinking, we'd be sitting upright in this startle response, and within seconds, automatically, we would immediately go into what's called the escape response, and we would run. So when you think about it, the global studies agree that 80% of the population of pets do suffer. So doesn't it make sense that wildlife suffer the same way? They can't understand these explosions are going to hurt. A day, I had baby squirrels and baby skunks. They were in their juvenile stage, their last stage before release. I had them in outdoor cages, so I thought it was another good time to observe them during the fireworks. We live on a hill, so the fireworks were actually a double echo explosion, giving them 2 loud explosions at the same time. From a distance, I watched them. Some immediately went into hiding, others ran around for a good minute in panic, and then they finally found a place to hide. None of them came out of hiding until the next day, and none of them were interested in food the whole day. So that told me they were still traumatized. My observations with these older juveniles and with newborns tells me at least the juveniles have some sense of getting away from noise. But newborns, they don't have the wherewithal to seek shelter, and they definitely haven't got the physical ability to run. So many migrating birds are still on their way here. One species, which I'm very concerned about, is the bank swallow. They're registered as a species at risk of Ontario. Their status is threatened, which is one below endangered, and they've declined 98% in their population. Last summer, a colony was discovered just outside Port in the nearby cliffs. Unfortunately, they were tragically discovered by a local resident who was paddleboarding, and she found between 25 and 30 dead bank swallows. And so I went out the next day because this happened the day after the Municipal Canada Day fireworks. I went out and I collected 10 dead remains, and I had a live bird as well who only lasted a couple of hours. And I sent them to the Canadian Wildlife Health Cooperative, who does further examinations for us to determine the cause of death. They confirmed their identity. They were bank swallows. They noted that every one of them came in an emaciated state, but they were unable to determine the underlying cause of disease or anything that would explain this mass fatality. But as I read the Ontario Endangered Species Act, it says that present generations should make every effort to protect a species at risk and their habitat while assisting in their recovery. I've also included in the handout Ontario's recovery strategy for bank swallows. So from a distance, our plan is to monitor the area where the colony was located, hoping that there will be survivors that will return. I also have a gentleman with a drone, and he's going to be looking for other colonies nearby. Photos will be submitted to the National Heritage Information Center to confirm their identity. And we're going to be withholding the locations because we don't want a lot of human activity, which might prevent them from nesting. But as you can see from the pictures, they were here in 2021 on the pier when I took that picture. And there was a colony confirmed here last year. So if there's any survivors, they're on their way now, making that long journey from South America to come and nest and have their babies up here. So as a community, can we not make an effort to help them? Isn't there severe population decline yet just another good reason to hold off on the fireworks just for the month of May? Like our other wildlife, May is the crucial month when, for these little birds, these struggling little birds, they need to mate and they're trying to have their little ones. So with this new development of knowing they're still coming here to breed, I agree with Ontario's Endangered Species Act that says we have an environmental and a moral obligation to protect them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Colleen, not just for your continued engagement, but you work hand in hand with our bylaw enforcement, which we all realize. And, you know, it's very much appreciated. I mean, on behalf of council and staff, with respect to the residents and wildlife that you're helping.
Excuse me, Mayor
please.
Sloan. You mentioned to me about having a small feeder. We don't have any problem with families having a little small bird feeder, as long as they clean up underneath. You know, there's nothing wrong with hummingbird feeders. I take mine down because the raccoons will empty them, guaranteed. So that's one thing that it's important, that we're not saying you can't feed any bird, you can't feed any animals. It's the people that are pouring food everywhere.
I appreciate that, because when we had our meeting, and thank you for allowing me some time, there was the question of, you know, people that wanted to feed the birds. So people that are feeding the birds don't always have the information about whether they're doing something that's wrong. But a lot of the times, as you say, there's actions that are taken in good, you know, and well-meaning, might perhaps do the opposite. Firstly, let me ask council if there's any questions after Ms. Burns' presentation. And if I may, seeing none, Ms. Hurd, we had a couple of ideas. We talked about your presentation today and what we could do as an organization, what we could do as a council, what we could do as staff. Would you mind, Ms. Hurd, just maybe taking there's a couple of moving parts, but I wanted to maybe give you a bit of an update if that's okay.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Sloan, to council. In regards to the feeding of wildlife, I can offer that from a communication standpoint, we'll definitely, we have a new communications manager and definitely do more proactive education. I also discovered today that previously when you were here, Ms. Burns, in 2023, there was direction to create a volunteer committee. So, and I don't think that any action is taken in regards to that. So you've got my commitment that we'll take a look at what we can do in regards to those pieces. And then further, in terms of the fireworks portion, as you know, we are in the process of looking for a new fire chief. And so respectfully to council, I would want to confer with the new chief and before any recommendations. I know council did decide again back in April of last year not to move forward with banning the fireworks in May. So again, once I have the new chief in place, then hopefully we can have a conversation on next steps.
Councillor Griffin and then Councillor Graham.
Thank you. Through you to Ms. Hurd, just for procedural clarity for anyone that would wish to, in spite of the intention to wait for a new fire chief, if anyone did want to bring a motion to reconsider, is that still possible for those who voted against that motion about fireworks at that time and prevailed?
Through the mayor, yes, of course. Procedurally, if there is a motion to reconsider that decision, you always have the purview to do that.
Councillor Graham, please.
I would like to make that motion to reconsider that denial from last year so that we make a motion that a reconsideration and move forward with making fireworks illegal during the month of May.
Ms. Hurd.
So again, I'm not sure how the vote was taken in April of last year. I don't know, Ms. Leach, if you've got that.
Okay. Well, Deputy Clerk says it wasn't. Okay.
So through the mayor, I would suggest we could look into that, and if anybody wants to move a motion of reconsideration, to do that at a following meeting.
Councillor Griffin, please.
Thank you again. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Hurd, seeing as we are rapidly approaching May, do you think that it's possible that we could look to have this conversation at the end of the meeting if there's time for us to try and find who voted in which direction meanwhile?
If council wishes us to take a recess and review the footage from last year, that's up to council.
Councillor.
So through my notes, I have the vote that the three people that voted for it were Councillor Bachman, Councillor Griffin, and myself. The four people who voted against it were Mayor Sloan, Deputy Mayor Noble, Councillor Connors, and Councillor Watson.
Well, I think we appreciate your notes, but I think we should probably also have the Deputy Clerk make it official. Is that okay, Councillor Graham? Okay. So we'll add that to check, and the suggestion was we look at that at the end of the meeting. Is that what the direction is? Because I'm not quite sure here. So how does council look at that? You've asked for a motion for reconsideration. We have an presentation too, so. Any other questions or comments for the Ms. Wynn or Ms. Burns? Stay tuned. Please.
I just want to make one more comment. I think it's important that we understand I don't assume that everybody expects to be as passionate about wildlife as I am. But what I'm trying to do, and like I said in my job description, you do have a copy of my role and responsibilities, is to try to instill some respect for wildlife and also to try and get people to have a care about stewardship in their environment and the wildlife that are there. Because the wildlife are here with us. They're not here for us. They're not for our entertainment. And if they're an inconvenience, they're not to be just trapped as well. They serve a very important role in keeping our ecosystem balanced. And as soon as we overfeed, we're muffing up that balance. And as soon as we're trapping like crazy because people don't like them around, then again, we're upsetting the balance. And I think we need to do a lot of education in regard to that.
Appreciate it. Ms. Wynn,
Just make one small point.
please.
Just when you do bring this forward and reconsider again, can I please just remind you if you've read the insert that Colleen gave you about all that she does, and it's just her, and there's nobody stepping up to take over. So all of that problem then becomes yours. If Colleen no longer does it, nobody else is stepping up. And this is the same in municipalities all around us. So that problem is going to be yours because your residents will not be paying $200 to $300 for pest control to come and deal with the problems. So please, when you're considering, think about that and working together, how much working together will make a difference and make your lives easier in the end too, because you don't want all those phone calls coming to you and you don't have anything to do about it. So that means that you will have a lot of very unhappy residents. So please just consider that in your deliberation.
Great point. Thank you both.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry, I have one more point. And I have to have the last word, right? In communicating with the pathologists that perform the necropsies on these bank swallows, he made a really good point. He said the loss of habitat and the decline in insect population because of the agriculture, we've put a lot of strain and stress on these species over the last few decades. And now additional stressors like fireworks will only exacerbate these issues and could actually potentially push these species over the edge. I just think that's a really good point. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you. Our next presenter, I'd like to invite Monika Pineda to come forward to the podium. Monika is our Manager of Communications, and she's going to give us a presentation regarding municipal communications engagement. And I think, Monika, your goal is to fill the gallery like this every Monday, but she's not listening. I digress. Over to you, Monika. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Sloan and members of council. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you today about communication efforts and to provide an overview.
Monica, interrupting you. Just raise your microphone. We can't hear you up here.
Air conditioning.
Is that better? Okay. So we use several different platforms and methods to keep residents informed, engaged, and connected with municipal projects and initiatives. So I've highlighted in the presentation here. We use a multi-platform approach, which helps ensure that information reaches as many people as possible. So we know that not everyone follows us on social media, and not everyone. Is that better? Okay, I'll lean in. So we know that not everyone follows us on social media or visits our community centers or the municipal office. So approach allows us to reach more people. Centralelgin.org is our main municipal website and serves as a central hub for information and updates from the municipality. We often direct residents to the municipal website from some of the other tools and platforms that we use. So you might see a poster at a community center that has a QR code or a link to a website for residents to learn more and to receive more information. Let's Talk Central Elgin is our public engagement platform. It's a website that residents can find engagement opportunities and provide their input on projects, participate in surveys, stay up to date on engagement initiatives. And I will be speaking more about the engagement platform in some of the following slides. We also run project-specific advertising where we invest in local newspapers and local radio to reach residents. This helps boost visibility for initiatives, especially when we need to reach demographics who might not be as active online. For certain projects, there might also be a specific requirement that we post a notice in a newspaper. So around the budget, updates to environmental assessments, that sort of thing. In terms of media, we are proactive in sharing updates with local media outlets, which helps us get ahead of misinformation. And we're also ready to respond to questions and concerns raised in media and respond to questions that we get. We have out-of-home communications, which includes posters and printed materials available in our community centers, as well as the municipal office. These efforts help us connect with residents in person and their everyday routines. So whether people are visiting one of our ice rinks for hockey practice or skating, they can find municipal information there. For social media, we are active on Facebook, Instagram, and most recently, LinkedIn. The strategy has been to share both routine updates and real-time notices. Social media, we know that many residents are getting their news first through social media, so it's important that we continue to grow our engagement and presence on these platforms. And the aim is to keep information fresh, relevant, and interactive. And finally, we have the Central Elgin Connect newsletter, which launched recently and is delivered with property tax bills. This gives us a broad reach to households across the municipality, and the first edition was well received, and we are preparing a second edition to be mailed in July. I've provided a social media overview. So our social media following has been steadily growing over the past 4 months. So we are seeing an increase in the number of views, shares, and interactions on our posts, which is great to see. Posts that receive more interactions, engagements include employee highlights, recognition of employee efforts, the work of council and employees. In the winter months, residents appreciated snow removal updates, updates on significant weather events. We've also been experimenting more with videos, including photographs and graphics, illustrations to add some variety to our posts. I'm just back. LinkedIn is the platform we most recently started using. I'll point out that with LinkedIn, we're still able to share news, links to news articles, which we can't with some of the other platforms. So for the example that I included here with employee recognition from a life-saving event in Port Stanley, we were able to include the CTV news link with that post, which again, we aren't able to do on Facebook or Instagram. Looking at the year ahead, I wanted to share some of the communication goals for 2025 and some of the ways I'll be looking to enhance how we communicate and connect with council, staff, and the community. So these goals are centered around consistency, accessibility, and engagement. So in terms of enhancements to information sharing with council and staff, the goal here is to ensure that council and staff are well informed and are able and equipped with tools to respond to public inquiries. So this could be improved internal updates, briefing notes, and more regular touch points. You may be aware that I recently started sharing weekly highlights of some of the weekly projects. I'll soon be reaching out to members of council to get some feedback on that, looking at ways that we can improve that, and more information on how you would like to receive information and updates. In terms of improvements to the municipal website, my focus will be looking at ways that we can make the website more user-friendly, accessible, and informative. The goal is that residents can find what they need quickly and easily. A top priority for this year is creating a formal communications plan. This will serve as a guiding document for how, when, and why we communicate with both internal and external audiences. It will outline key goals, target audiences, platforms, and performance indicators to measure success. The communications plan will also be informed by community feedback, which will help determine new methods and platforms that we can use to reach and engage the public. This will help ensure that we are using our budget effectively, so we're reaching people where they're at. In 2025, I am also aiming to have a stronger, more visible presence at local events, whether that's information booths, pop-ups, or attending events in the community. That will give us an opportunity to connect with residents, hear from residents, and share information in that format. Clear, regular, and well-timed communications means that our messaging will be more consistent, proactive, and timely. This will help ensure that residents always know what's happening, when, and why. So residents will continue to see seasonal campaigns, reminders, public notices, and real-time updates. Branding, style guidelines, and corporate templates. These will help create a consistent and professional identity for the municipality. It's been some time since we've updated our templates, so I'm really looking forward to a refresh. And finally, we want to provide more opportunities for public feedback, whether that is online or in person. We also will work to make it clear in how public feedback is used and shared with council for decision making. Speaking of public engagement, I want to take this opportunity to speak to you about our online engagement tool, Let's Talk CentralElgin.ca. This is the website where residents can see our engagement opportunities that we currently have open, as well as see updates and progress on the projects that we have recently completed. This website is an easy way for residents to share their feedback on ideas and projects initiatives in a cost-effective way that we can collect public input and complement in-person consultation. I've recently made some updates to the page. So a new banner, removing the projects that are no longer active, and just cleaning up the site. We have a multi-year license agreement with the platform provider, and that agreement was entered in 2021 for the years 2022 to 2025. So we are actually in the last year of our agreement. So the plan for 2025 is to continue using the site more effectively, and then later this year we'll need to make a decision on how we want to move forward for 2026 and beyond. I wanted to point out some of the functions of the engagement platform. So the platform provides a number of different tools to collect feedback from the public. And there's a number of tools that we can use to inform and update through the process of an engagement project. So not only can we create surveys in the platform, there's also opportunities for a places map where we could ask residents to show us on a map where they'd like to see certain things in certain projects. There's also an option for residents to vote on ideas, to vote on feedback. Residents can also submit stories and participate in forum discussions. Right now, we are using the survey tool to collect feedback from residents about short-term rental accommodations, as well as using the newsfeed tool to provide updates on that project. In terms of reporting, the platform allows us to easily report on the number of visitors, see how people are finding the site so we can update tactics if we're noticing low engagement. We can also see how many times a certain document has been downloaded. So it gives us a better sense of analytics and insight to how people are reaching and using the site. So these screenshots that I've included here are from the short-term rental accommodation survey, but just know that a more comprehensive report will be included in that project report in the coming weeks. And then lastly, I wanted to highlight some of the upcoming projects that will include community engagement. As mentioned previously, one of my top priorities for 2025 is communications plan. And so that plan will be shaped with community feedback and insight. So public survey for that will be launching later this spring. We'll also have feedback opportunities for the Recreation and Trails Master Plan later this year, the former hospital lands in Central Elgin, as well as the 2026 budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Monika. Couple of things. One, I think it's good news that the website is on our agenda for update. I think most of the council would agree that's something that we can look towards improving. Appreciate your engagement, and I'll ask council if they have any questions at this time. Deputy Mayor.
Through you, Mayor. Is the post about the lost kitten, is that still our #1 post?
It is, but I think there's a few others that are in the running, but that was a popular one. Employee found a kitten at the side of the road. And there was a lot of community members that were sharing that post to find the owner of that kitten.
Well, thanks again. And if there aren't any questions, I think appreciate your presentation and look forward to hearing back from you again. So thank you, Monika.
Thank you again for having me today. Thanks.
Moving to correspondence requiring action. We have a signed bylaw appeal. If I could get a mover and a seconder, please. Mover and a seconder. Councillor Watson, thank you. Councillor Griffin, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Watson, seconded by Councillor Griffin, that the appeal regarding the internally illuminated projection sign at 158 William Street, Port Stanley be denied.
Questions and or comments from council? Councillor Griffin, please. And
Thank you, through you. I see that it's being recommended that we deny this, but I couldn't help finding it both cheeky and intensely pertinent that they pointed out the number of internally lit signs that we as a municipality have at our own buildings. And I would love to understand why it is that that's a situation we're dealing with.
Sure. Councillor. Ms. Hurd, if you could comment on that one, please.
Thank you. Through yourself to Councillor Griffin. So you're absolutely correct. There's areas throughout the municipality that digital signs and internally lit signs are permitted. However, the sign bylaw is very specific about the certain area in Port Stanley where they are not permitted. And that's why the decision for the variance was denied.
Okay, any supplementary? Mr. Councillor Griffin, any supplementary?
I can't help holding a personal opinion that an internally lit sign can be an annoyance to neighbors in truly any place in the municipality, though I do acknowledge that there's more density, both of businesses and residents in Port Stanley. I think it was well indicated on their part, and really it comes down to how we want to deal with that.
Any other questions? Deputy Mayor, please.
Through you, Mayor, to staff, is that a BIA bylaw? Like it's the BIA area, or that's the issue?
Through the mayor to the deputy mayor, no, it's within a municipal bylaws, and it's defined in the downtown area. I'm not sure. I believe it's referenced to a heritage district that the previous when the bylaw was passed, that it was identified. So again, as I always say, it's up to council whether they choose to change their policies and bylaws. But existing right now is that area within Port Stanley that those signs are not permitted.
Councillor Graham, please.
So
Thank you,
it's
Ms.
my
Hurd.
understanding that it was in combination of the BIA area and the Heritage Committee, because BIA primarily and heritage, so wanted to maintain the, more of a quaint village area rather than having, because once you have one internally lit sign, then that opens the door for many, many more. Obviously, we don't want to necessarily look like St. Thomas with all their internally lit signs. We want to keep the village because it's a tourist area and tourist attraction, and that is part of the draw of it, is the quaintness of the village.
Councillor Watson, then Councillor Griffin. Councillor.
Okay, through you, Mayor. Well, there's nothing quaint about the Pierside. That's a rockin' hard bar. And like this, yeah, well, this is a bylaw that was enacted in 2018. So I'm sure there's nothing with, we could probably change this going forward. So I would support something to change this for the people. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Griffin.
Thanks. So I had a question sort of in that vein, actually. We went through some public consultations and things on property standards bylaw some time ago, and I think that we've still been waiting to hear back on recommendations for those property standards changes. Is there any reason why we couldn't just allow this to stand until we've revisited our property standards and made more decisions on that as a council?
It's above my pay grade. Ms. Hurd, please.
Through the mayor to Councillor Griffin, I'm not aware of that. I can look into that. But this is specifically as it relates to a sign bylaw. It has nothing to do with property standards. This variance request through the process is through a sign bylaw. And I'm just looking up section 26 of that bylaw. And the reason for that area, it was recognized as a heritage conservation area. And that's why, and there was a planning report and a number of documentation that went into the creation of this part of the sign bylaw, and that is what council at the time chose to pick to implement in the sign bylaw.
Anything from this side? Anything further? We have a motion on the table to deny the sign. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion fails. Moving on. Number 2, Port Stanley BIA Board of Engagement or Board of Management. Can I get a mover and a seconder for this item, please? Councillor Connors and anyone? Councillor Griffin, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Connors, seconded by Councillor Griffin, that the appointment of Margot Levesque as a member of the Port Stanley BIA Board of Management for the 2022 to 2026 term be approved, and that bylaw 2778 be amended to reflect the current composition of the board.
Any questions or comments on this? Margot's from, Todd, please go ahead, Deputy Mayor, rather.
Through you, Mayor, this is good news because we do need more people engaged in the BIA, and I'd just like to pass that as good news.
Appreciate that, and we know, or I know Margot, and a lot of us do, from the Harbor Merchant, and she's an active participant in the local scene, so it would be nice to have her on that board. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. SE 0425 is a special events application, Colors on the Beach. Mover and a seconder. Councillor Griffin and Councillor Bachman, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Griffin, seconded by Councillor Bachman, that the special events permit for the Colors on the Beach event to be held on Saturday, July 12, 2025, from approximately 1:00 p.m. to 6:00 p.m. be approved, subject to the conditions as outlined.
Now, I'm not going to mention the fact that when I went to this event, I was told that my clothes could be washed after. That is 100% false. However, a great event, and sorry, thinking about my shirt. Any other questions or comments from council? Mayor, Councillor Griffin, Deputy Mayor, thank you.
Me first, sorry, thank you. I had that in the wrong way in my head. I definitely think that it was a success hitting Value Village before going there. Although I did note a bright white Elgin County hat that came out looking just beautiful. And if they still have any, I recommend that you ask for one before August.
Understood. Appreciate the advice. Thank you. Councillor, Deputy Mayor, thank you.
I didn't even try to clean my white shirt. I didn't even give it a go.
I hope all the attendants will try this or think about attending it. It's a great event. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. SE 0525 is a special events application for Jesse's Journey Walk. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillors Bachman and the Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Bogman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Noble, that the special events permit for Jesse's Journey 30th Anniversary Walk event to start at the roundabout on William Street in Port Stanley on June 10th, 2025 be approved subject to the conditions as outlined.
Pretty self-explanatory. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. SE 0625 is a special events application for a Masonic meeting. Mover and a seconder. Councillor Bachman and Councillor Watson. Thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Bogman, seconded by Councillor Watson, that the special events permit for the Masonic meeting event to be held on the berm in Port Stanley on May 13th, 2025 be approved subject to the conditions as outlined.
Any questions or comments about the Masonic event? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. SE 0725 is a special events application, St. Thomas Automotive Swap Meet. Mover and seconder, please. Councillors Bachman and Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Bachman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Noble, that the special events permit for the St. Thomas Automotive Swap Meet event to be held at the Dan Patterson Conservation Area in St. Thomas on June 22nd, 2025 from 6 o'clock a.m. to 4:30 p.m. be approved subject to the conditions as outlined.
Questions or comments? I did pick the wrong councillor, if that's okay. Are you okay with that? Thanks, Councillor Bachman. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. SE 0825 is a special events application for Cocoa Fest. Mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor. And thank you, Councillor Watson.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councillor Watson, that the special events permit for the Cocoa Fest event to be held at the Kokomo Beach Club on July 26, 2025 from 10 o'clock a.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. be approved subject to the conditions as outlined.
Questions? All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. SC 0925, a special events application for Stanley Bike Safety and Rodeo Program, May 24th. Mover and a seconder. Councillor Griffin. Councillor Bachman, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Griffin, seconded by Councillor Bogman, that the special events permit for the Port Stanley Bike Safety and Rodeo Program event to be held on May 24th, 2025 from 9 o'clock a.m. to 12 o'clock p.m. be approved subject to the conditions as outlined.
Questions, comments? Ms. Leach, please.
Mayor Sloan, through you to council, I will just note that there is not actually a bike route planned through the village. So that condition is actually not required, and I apologize for the miscommunication on that one.
Thank you. Yeah, the organizers mentioned that it's going to be a stationary event, so very good. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. SE 1025, 2025 Kettle Creek Food Truck Festival. Mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Connors.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councillor Connors, that the special events permit for the Kettle Creek Food Truck Festival event to be held at the Dan Patterson Conservation Area on June 14th, 2025 from 9 o'clock a.m. to 7 o'clock p.m. be approved subject to the conditions as outlined.
Any questions or comments? Deputy?
Through you, Mayor, this is a great event and it's really supports Kettle Creek Conservation Authority, and it's getting busier every year. So I would encourage everyone to attend.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. SE 1125, 2025 Calypso Festival. Come and live in Port Stanley, Ontario. Mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Watson. Thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councillor Watson, that the special events permit for the 2025 Calypso Festival to be held on Saturday, August 2nd to Monday, August 4th, 2025 from approximately 9 o'clock a.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. be approved subject to the conditions as outlined.
Questions, comments? All in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. Received for information, 2 items. Finance Committee meetings from March 17th and Heritage Central Elgin meeting minutes from Tuesday, March 25th. Mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Watson, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councillor Watson, that correspondence items number 1 and 2 be received for information.
Questions, comments? All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Reports, Central Elgin Planning Office, CEP 1325, application to amend the Township of Yarmouth bylaw 5277 Quaker Road. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Bachman, Councillor Connors, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Bogman, seconded by Councillor Connors, that report CEP 1325 be received and that a date for a public meeting be established in accordance with legislated requirements.
Councillor Griffin.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I have the understanding that there may be more information forthcoming on this down the road. How far legislatively could we defer this if we wanted to wait and have the best possible information?
Thank you. I'm gonna have to defer to Kevin. Mr. McClure.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess with this, I guess the report is to be received and I guess a public meeting is to be scheduled. If the applicant is looking to defer the holding of the public meeting until a later date, they can definitely request that. However, given the fact that they have submitted an application, there are legislative timeframes for the council to make a decision prior to them having the ability to, I guess, appeal a non-decision. So that's a risk that I guess the municipality takes on if they decide to defer it and it goes beyond that legislative timeframe. So if the applicant would like to defer, they can definitely reach out to us and then we can hold off on scheduling of a public meeting at their request.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Griffin.
Thank you. Through you. So to be clear, if we go forward on this, they just contact you and it can be deferred for as long as that needs to happen?
Yes, we typically do work with applicants if there's issues that have arisen through the process and they would like to resolve it prior to going to a public meeting. We do that quite often.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. CEP 1425, application to amend the Township of Yarmouth bylaw 5013 Yarmouth Center Road. A mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Watson, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councillor Watson, that report CEP 1425 regarding an application to amend the Township of Yarmouth bylaw 1998 be received and that a date for a public meeting be established in accordance with legislated requirements.
Questions or comments? Looks to be on track. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. Thank you. Director of it. Oh, Councillor Graham, you have your hand up.
Yeah, can we possibly just to assist the people in the gallery, move up other business in front of the Director of Infrastructure and Community Services, please?
In what regard?
So that we can bring a motion from the floor.
Sure. If that's okay with, I'm going to ask for a kind of will of council, but if you're okay to bring forward the motion. Oh, Councillor Watson.
No, if I got to be here all night, they can be here all night too. Just keep the meeting going as is. I'm good with it. Thank you.
Others? Are you okay, Councillor, for us to continue on?
No, I'm not okay with it. I would like actually to move up other business.
Motion to move up other business, please.
I'll make that motion.
Got a mover and a seconder to move other business up to the current part of the agenda. Thank you. Ms. Leach, please.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Graham, seconded by Councillor Griffin, that the meeting procedures be waived in order to immediately consider other business matters.
All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion fails. Thank you. Director of Infrastructure and Community Service, ICS 2525, the Westport Stanley Stormwater Environmental Assessment. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Connors and the Deputy Mayor.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Connors, seconded by Deputy Mayor Noble, that the Westport Stanley Stormwater Environmental Assessment be accepted and the notice of completion be posted on the municipal website in accordance with the municipal class environmental assessment process.
Questions or comments? We had the report earlier. Looks quite like a formality. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. ICS 1425, operation of jet ski rentals in Port Stanley. A mover and a seconder to put on the floor. Councillor Griffin, Councillor Connors. Thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Griffin, seconded by Councillor Connors, that staff be directed to prepare a feasibility analysis for a third-party operated jet ski rental business in Port Stanley Harbor, which shall include a policy review, public consultation and evaluation process, with a report back to council for a decision by spring 2026.
Questions or comments about this report? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. ICS 1525, the Bachner Drain request. Mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Watson, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councillor Watson, that drainage works proceed as described in the attached request from Ryan Klein, and that Brandon Widner, P.Eng of Spreed Associates be appointed to prepare a report under Section 78 of the Drainage Act for the Bachner Drain.
Questions, comments? All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. ICS 1625 is the McLaws Drain update. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Bachman, excuse me, and Deputy Mayor Noble, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Bogman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Noble, that the drainage works proceed as described in the attached request and petition from Heather Hepburn of Bannock Farms, and that Brandon Widner, P.Eng of Spreed Associates be appointed to prepare a report under Section 4, in addition to the previous appointment under Section 78 of the Drainage Act for the McLaws Drain.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. Thank you. ICS 1725, the Little Beach Mobility Mats. Mover and a seconder, Councillor Bachman and Councillor Griffin. Thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Bogman, seconded by Councillor Griffin, the staff be directed to receive, install, and maintain the mobility mats for Little Beach provided by the Port Stanley Village Association, and that the construction of a concrete pad required for the mobility mat in the amount of $15,000 be funded through the Working Capital Reserve Fund.
Any questions or comments? Councillor Watson, thank you.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Looks like the Port Stanley Village Association got $45,000 for a grant. And we got to put up $15,000 to build a concrete pad to put these mats on. So how much did these mats all cost? Like they get the money, but when we got to front more money, where did they put all this money? Where's it all going, the $45,000 they had? Thanks.
Jeff, Mr. Brooks, I think will handle this. So we've got a couple of volunteers from the audience. Mr. Brooks.
Through you, Mayor Sloan, I apologize. I don't have the breakdown of the cost for the mobility mats in front of me. However, I understand that the Port Stanley Village Association, through that $45,000, is correction. The 45,000 quoted in the report is actually 49,000 that they received for the mobility mats. And I understand new information has come along that the Port Stanley Village Association has reached out to the provincial government to inquire about some of that money being used to fund the concrete pad. It's believed that $6,000 of that 49,000 will be able to be used to construct that concrete pad, which would leave the municipality on the hook for $9,000 of that concrete pad.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Councillor Griffin.
Thank you. Through you, I think it's important for us to understand that any asset that we take on will always cost us money, right? Like earlier this term, we took on a set of picnic tables, and if those require repairs, we will end up spending money on those. There's talk about a band shell right now, and presumably if that becomes a thing, we are going to be spending money to keep hydro and make sure that there's adequate seating and parking and trash cans, right? There's always costs to taking on a new asset, but this is an asset that benefits mobility at a beach that doesn't have it yet. So I think that that cost is worthwhile.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Hey, thank you. I have to switch pages. ICS 1825 is a municipal vegetable garden planting program. Could I get a mover and a seconder? Councillor Griffin and Councillor Bachman. Thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Griffin, seconded by Councillor Bachman, that a low-cost vegetable garden pilot program be endorsed as outlined in staff report ICS 1825, and that staff report back to council regarding the pilot program for future considerations.
Councillor Griffin?
Thank you. I just want to make a really quick point here to say that the work that's been done on this has been excellent, and I'd like to thank Canadale because they've taken time to give some guidance and suggestions and also offered some funds to support this. And I really appreciate seeing community members take so much interest.
So thank you, Councillor Griffin. If I may, we have an approximate cost of $1,400. What do you think the value of the produce coming out would be?
That's a fair question and not something that I thought to ask Mike before this meeting.
So if I look at this as a practical element here, I've got a $1,400 outlay for a certain amount of produce. We have to have the health inspector involved. Is that correct? Oh, Mr. Brooks?
No, I don't believe that we do need to get the health inspector involved.
Okay, so if we continue on in the vein that I'm going through is, if we took the $1,400 and we made the seeds available, I think Canadale's offered them up for $500 donation, right? So if we were to take the seeds and we were to give them out, or if we were to take the $1,400 to make a donation under the community improvement plan to the food bank for $1,000, I just want to understand here why that isn't a better option. And I'd like to hear from council. Councillor Watson, or sorry, I just saw you nod. Sorry, sir.
Well, I was through you, Mayor. I know one thing, there's going to be what, 4 little plots, and all of them together are going to be 48 square feet. How much food are you going to get out of there? And how much is it going to cost? I know it's a study to see how it's going to go, and I love the idea, really. But for 48 feet, what are we going to get? We have 2 guys back here in the gallery that if we were really nice to them, they give us enough potatoes and green peppers to last us forever. So I don't know what the real value is here. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Griffin?
Thank you. Through you. Many libraries in this area do have seed libraries available in the springtime. It's an excellent resource. It is particularly excellent for people who own land that they can plant those seeds on for themselves, or are people that have the time and availability to rent and use community garden plots. The point of this investigation was to simultaneously explore the possibility of garden plots for people who can and will use them in future years, but also to look at ways that we can divert staff labor that's normally spent on ornamental plants and put that into plants that are productive for our community, so that the people who for mobility reasons could not use a garden plot or are working 50-hour weeks and, you know, taking care of parents or children and things and don't have that time commitment. The goal is to take resources we're already using at our parks and divert it in a way that supports community members, regardless of whether they can personally do that for themselves on their own land or on a garden plot.
So if they can't do it on their own land, how are we going to get the produce to them? I don't understand. How is it going to be? Is it you're going to ask staff to give it out?
No, so this is a thing we did discuss at our last meeting. For example, when I worked at Crouch Library in London, we had a raised bed that we would put tomatoes into, and many times people would come and check out their books and then go get themselves a pint of tomatoes on their way home. And that was the beauty of it, is that it was a self-administered thing. As people used our space, they could benefit from that and get themselves something that is fresh and that is more and more expensive at our grocery stores. And I would like to note as well, when we look at this report, sorry, I apologize, Mr. Mayor. I would like to note as well that some of those costs that were suggested there are costs specifically for equipment that they thought would make this easier, that would continue to exist next year. It's not just, we're going to spend $1,400 on seeds. So
No, I know that.
Well-
It's 500 on seeds.
That's an amount that's been donated to us to use on seeds, which I think is lovely. But what I'm suggesting here is that if this works and turns out to be something valuable to our community, it's not like those $1,400 of things suddenly disappear. They're an asset that we have and can use next year.
And assets have a cost, you just told us. So I just don't understand how the produce is going to the people. So where do you see them getting it? Just from the library, or I'm not, because you worked at a library. Oh, I was asking Councillor Griffin, but Councillor Graham.
I would say the same way that people get apples in Port Stanley, we planted apple trees for people to have apples. It's the exact same process. If you want to meet me down there, I can show you how people get those apples. If that's one of the conundrums you're having a difficult time understanding.
So it sounds like a date. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Deputy Mayor, thank you. Thanks, Councillor Griffin.
That being said, I wonder if planting fruit trees is a better option than the gardens, just because if you plant a tree once, then it kind of looks after itself and there's less policing and monitoring and, you know, you're not having a raised field bed that you have to have staff probably weed eat and stuff like that. But the trees will kind of look after themselves. Kind of a neat idea, like Councillor Graham has said.
Councillor Griffin.
And
We've got some arborists out there. I don't think they agree. Anyway, I think it's a great discussion. Councillor Griffin, floor is yours.
Thank you. Through you. Yes, I would be thrilled to bits for us to plant food-bearing trees as well. And they do have a different sort of longevity to them. But as I think some members of our audience know, they do require a great deal of care. And for example, an apple tree that gets too large really doesn't produce nearly as well. So there is replacement in those things as well. But I think that, and I was pleased to see actually when we did our discussion about potential things for our communities on the Sykeland, that a couple of people wrote down that fruit-bearing trees in parks would be nice. I see that and I appreciate that. But that's not today. What's today is we have a report suggesting that we could do this, and I think it could be a benefit to our community. And this happens to be a year where we're looking at the prices of groceries potentially being something rapidly changing and not within our control. And even if this is only a pilot at 2 parks, I would rather see us start and try something.
Okay. Yeah, very persuasive. Thank you. Councillor, Deputy Mayor.
through you, Mayor, I'm just wondering, as we're looking at this, would we be better off to donate that same amount of money to the Port Stanley Food Bank or to the Port Stanley and Belmont food banks or something instead of planting the actual vegetables? Like I just think we would get more food to support people by donating that much money just to buy food than to grow that.
Councillor Griffin, thank you. Thanks, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Through you, I would say that although I think that we absolutely, again, can, and I would be in support of, make those donations. Another thing I observed working at a library that had a support center available there that did have a food cupboard was that there's a lot of stigma about the use of that sort of thing, and many people choose not to use them. Another thing is that in a rural community like ours, if you need a food cupboard and can't afford a car, and I do know there are people in Ward 2 that do not have the money for a car and would benefit from a food bank, you can't necessarily get yourself to where you need to be all of the time. And that's why if we can pilot this and potentially bring this to more parks in future, we are bringing this closer to people's homes. The other thing is that this ultimately does not have to be for every single person who has a tax statement they can show that gets them into a food bank. This can be for any person who suddenly finds that as prices are changing, things are tight or different, or maybe it would just be useful and beneficial. It doesn't have to be, we are looking only to help the poorest. It can be, we would like to make this good and useful for everyone.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. All those in favor of the pilot program? Opposed?
Could we
Motion
record
fails.
that vote, please, Your Worship?
Sure, absolutely. Ms. Leach, if you could record the vote, please.
Councillor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Griffin,
Yes.
Councillor Watts,
No.
Councillor Connors,
No.
Councillor Bachman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Noble,
No.
Mayor Sloan.
No.
That's defeated.
Item ICS 2025 is a noise exemption for the St. Thomas Dragway. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Griffin, thank you. Councillor Connors, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Griffin, seconded by Councillor Connors, that exemptions be granted to bylaw number 212, being a bylaw to control noise in the municipality of Central Elgin as amended, to allow the St. Thomas Dragway to host a concert as part of a weekend program taking place on May 17th, 2025, from 7 o'clock p.m. to 11 o'clock p.m., and August 16th, 2025, from 7 o'clock p.m. to 11 o'clock p.m.
Questions or comments on this event? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. ICS 2125, noise exemption for the St. Thomas Gun Club. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Connors, Councillor Watson, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Connors, seconded by Councillor Watson, that an exemption be granted to bylaw number 212, being a bylaw to control noise in the municipality of Central Elgin as amended, to allow the St. Thomas Gun Club to hold their spring trap shooting event taking place on May 18th, 2025.
Questions, comments? All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. ICS 2325 is a condo declaration for 62 Compass Trail. If I could get a mover and a seconder. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Watson, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councillor Watson, that the mayor and deputy clerk be authorized to sign Schedule G of the condominium declaration, statement of municipality for the vacant land condo at 62 Compass Trail, Port Stanley.
Questions, comments? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. ICS 2425 is a surface treatment tender award. Mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Connors, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councillor Connors, that the tender from Duncor Enterprises, Inc. for the 2025 Microservicing and Service Treatment Program be approved in the amount of $610,564.79, plus all applicable taxes.
Questions, comments? All in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. ICS 2625, Water and Wastewater Feasibility Study. Mover and seconder. Councillor or Deputy Mayor and Councillor Griffin, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councillor Griffin, that Stantec Consulting Limited be awarded a sole source contract for the water and wastewater feasibility study on the former psychiatric lands due to their comprehensive understanding of the related infrastructure and aggressive timelines of the project, and that the Director of Infrastructure and Community Services be authorized to enter into an agreement with Stantec Consulting to carry out the work as outlined in the scope of work for a total cost of $238,501.12, excluding HST, and funded through Capital Project 2025-34 as approved through the 2025 budget.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Bylaws. Can I get a mover and a seconder for the bylaws? Councillor Watson, Councillor Connors, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Watson, seconded by Councillor Connors, that bylaws 2025-18, 2025-19, 2025-20, and 2025-21 be read a first time and passed.
All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Notice of motion. We have agenda publication timing. Councillor Graham. Did you want to speak to this, Councillor Graham?
Just making a motion so that we can have the agenda sent or posted on Tuesdays so that the public has more time to take a look at it and we have more time to take a look at it and bring questions to staff.
Any questions or comments from council? I'd like to get a staff person. Oh, a seconder would be nice, wouldn't it? Sorry, Councillor. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Griffin. Can I get the staff perspective, please?
Sorry, through yourself to council. Again, it's one of those things where administratively, absolutely, if it's the council's wish that you that you push back the agenda time. However, there's a lot of internal controls that must be met, and I would say potentially, I know the governance committees is to review the procedural bylaw in their work plan, and because this implication may have a number of other implications within the bylaw, I may suggest that it be pushed to the governance committee as part of a fulsome procedural bylaw review. However, if council wishes to adopt this, then it's council's will.
Thoughts, Councillor Griffin?
Thank you. Through you, Councillor Graham, would you be open to us instead directing that the governance committee review the procedural and this together? I think this is fabulous. I had my kids this weekend and it's really hard to get your reading done while you've got a house full, but also it's true that for delegation bookings and things, we will need to make some updates.
Sure.
Okey doke. So we have an amendment that the notice of motion regarding the timing of agendas be referred to the governance committee as part of the procedural bylaw review. Okay, mover and a seconder, please. Is it, well, we, an amendment. Deputy Mayor. Councillor Griffin, thank you. We need to vote on the amendment, I'm told. All those in favor of the amendment to put it through to the governance committee? Sure, no problem, Councillor Watson. That the notice of motion regarding the timing of agendas be referred to the governance committee as part of the procedural bylaw review. Very good. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Now, back to the main motion as amended. We have a mover, we have a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? We were just, yeah, and that's carried. I think what we were doing, if I can just, for Councillor Watson and I were both kind of quizzical. We went back to the main amendment. We made the amendment, then we amended the original notice of motion to put on the amendment, and then we're agreeing to it with the amendment, correct? Yeah, I know. I appreciate it, Councillor. It's a bit confusing. Okay, other business. Councillor Griffin, please.
Thank you. Through you, I would like to bring a motion without notice.
How do we do it? Is there a seconder? Do they vote on the thing?
Again, through the procedural bylaw, motion may be introduced without notice if council without debate agrees on a majority vote to dispense with the notice. So I believe the deputy clerk has a motion to ask council if they're willing to add an item to the agenda without notice. If the majority of council does agree to that, then the motion would be brought forward. And again, I want to reiterate that it is without debate.
Ms. Leach?
Yeah. You too.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Graham.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Griffin, seconded by Councillor Graham, that in accordance with section 6.9.2 of the procedural bylaw, a motion without notice be permitted to be introduced regarding strong mayor powers.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion fails.
Thank you. Through you, your worship.
Hey,
Through you, I'd like to request that we record that as well, please.
sure. Okay, we can record it.
Councillor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Griffin,
Yes.
Councillor Watson, Councillor Connor,
No.
Bogman,
No. Hold it. Confused. Yes, sorry, I'm with the, yeah.
Deputy Mayor Noble,
No.
Mayor Sloan.
No.
That's defeated.
Just so that I know here and our friends in the audience know that this notice of motion comes to the next meeting, is it not? If you choose to put it forward under the right timelines, we'll be glad to hear it. Oh, we've got Councillor Graham.
With regards to that, the province has requested that we provide feedback by April 16th, which I believe is Wednesday. So us bringing that motion next week when it's been denied this week will have no effect whatsoever. As well, from contact throughout this meeting, there are meetings going on across Ontario right now With regards to strong mayors, including Tillsonburg, Essex, Leamington, special meetings are being called for everyone where councils are approving this fight for democracy, except for in this municipality. Shame on all of you for that.
Well, thank you. I think that before we get, hold on. I think we get too far ahead of ourselves. It would be nice to understand something that came from the provincial government to 149 municipalities on Wednesday. I think I learned about it, 69? I learned about it at noon, and as usual, we've asked to have information made available so that the information provided to all of us is debated and discussed, and not just parenthetically from a Facebook post that comes along that I can't confirm. So is it okay to do a little bit of research on what it entails? If the folks here don't think that, then that's the thing, and I'll have to continue on. Go ahead, Councillor Graham.
So you just deferred that we have the time to not have the time to take a look at agendas on Tuesday. And now you're requesting additional time to look at a bill that came out on Wednesday from the provincial government. Unfortunately, because if you're stating that you didn't read that bill, so you can't understand it, or you don't have a good understanding of it and you need more information, to me, that's dereliction of your duty as a mayor.
Well, let's hear, you have the opportunity to say that. And I mean, if that's the way you think, then, I mean, I think you said about we're not supposed to debate this. I just thought that maybe it was going to be brought back for another meeting, but that's up to you, Councillor Graham. You've got the answers. I think we're done with respect. We have to go into closed session. So apologies to our friends that are in the gallery. And we look forward to, thank you for your time. Any other questions? So, well, I appreciate that. And we will talk to you as things go forward. Closed session. Do I need a mover and a seconder to proceed? I do. Councillor, you got your hand up. Councillor Griffin, Councillor Watson. Thank you. All right.